out about it. Like, when we were working, there was a possibility, I told you I'm going to answer the phone. Alright, hello, who is this?
Probation doesn't work.
Hello?
There's nobody here.
There's nobody there.
No, I'm trying to put it on probation. It doesn't work.
I guess so. What the hell was I talking about? Water. I was talking about water. Water. Helsing. So there was you may know the animated show Slayers that I played a character on, and there were rumors that there was a more recent version of Slayers that was done, Evolution and Revolution, and people were saying, "Oh, are you coming back to play Zelgadis?" And I was at a convention. And literally Friday, a fan came up to me and asked me, "Do you know anything about whether you're going to be recording Slayers?" And I said, "No, I don't." Late that night, at like 11 o'clock, I get the call from the producer saying, "It looks like we're going forward, we're going to record Slayers." I was like, "Great." And so they announced it the next day, Saturday, at the convention, that we're going to go forward with Slayers. I had known for 6 hours. And the fan came up to me the next day and said, "You knew yesterday, you knew that you were doing Slayers and you didn't tell me." I'm like, "No, I didn't. I had no idea," right? So you guys will find out long before the actors will, because they'll have press releases. Because as an actor, I don't believe that the show's going forward until they call to schedule the recording session. And then I don't believe it until I'm actually in the booth recording the character. And then I don't believe it until they send me the check. And then I don't believe it until the check clears. So, I literally will be the last one to know.
Okay. Well, I have one more request for my dear friend over there. I think you could say something along the lines, if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I've seen OVA 4. Say something along the lines of, "I've caught you, Rip Van Winkle," as Alucard.
Is that what the line is?
I'm pretty sure it's inaccurate. It's been a while, but something along those lines.
"I've caught you, Rip Van Winkle."
Thank you.
Hi, this is mostly a request for Maile. Would it be possible for you to say "I love Kimberly" in your Naruto voice?
Yeah, I love Kimberly.
Thank you very much.
This is so hard.
For Maile?
Yeah.
Who do you prefer, Sakura or Hinata?
Sasuke.
What do you do to get in character for each episode?
I eat a lot of ramen.
I snarf Twinkies.
I've done like 352 episodes, maybe? 35 video games, a bunch of movies. So it really is sort of second nature now. In the beginning, of course I'd have to kind of think about it, but now it's so automatic for me. And there was a long break before we started resuming Naruto Shippuden this last time. A long break, but in the meantime I'd done like 3 video games. So that was the longest break we've had in the 5.5 years. Wait a minute, 2004. Yeah, wow, 7 years. So that was weird, but it's still pretty easy to just jump right back into character for me.
Usually I go around and try to drink people's blood. Oh, Naruto. No, in Naruto I just go around killing everyone I see. In terms of getting into the character, usually all I want is a vocal reference, because it's very nice to hear exactly where we were the last time, so that I can match it. And sometimes it's even like mic placement, because if we were recording here, and then the next time we try to record here, it's going to sound completely different. So I want to hear what the recording was, so I can know exactly where I am physically, and sort of figure out what the thought process was behind the character. So that's usually helpful. But someone like Itachi, it is sort of second nature. He's sort of breathy and emo, and add water and go.
Hi. I was wondering,
since you do so much anime voice acting, do you guys ever like consider recording, like taking some Japanese lessons to be able to pronounce the names and like the characters, attacks, and powers? Do you think that's important to practice?
No. I do think it's important. The only anime that I do is Naruto. And in the I would love to, and I haven't, which is shameful, but I'm pretty busy. But they give us vocal references for the names and the pronunciations. What's funny is, and you'll know this if you speak Japanese or know Japanese people, like we'll ask one person how to pronounce a name, and they'll tell us one way, and then we'll ask a second person, they'll be like, no, you say it this way, so in a different way. So sometimes we get two pronunciations for the same names. I am listening to the Japanese in my headphones. So you pick up kind of phrases, but yeah, I would love to learn Japanese, and I think it would help. Although, for me, doing the character is about, certainly you have to be able to pronounce the Rasengans and anything like that. But for me, doing the character, I want to give it my own spin as much as possible, So it's not as important that and we Americanize some of the names too, just because, like, we don't say ninja, because it would sound weird. It's like I'm talking normally and then, wow, I throw in that, and it would sound a little weird. But yeah, I would love to learn Japanese. Crispin has taken Japanese.
私は日本語をちょっと話します。So yeah, I mean, it's always a balance. On some Japanese shows, something like Cowboy Bebop, it's a very Western show, so you don't have to worry about saying "spike speaker" with a Japanese accent. But when you're doing shows like Naruto, where you have all these Japanese terms, you have to walk this line about, well, how authentic do we try to sound, and how accessible do we make it to an American audience? I always try my best to say proper names in Japanese with the correct pronunciation, because it always drives me nuts when I hear Kagome, because I think that sounds sort of silly to me. But that's not always the call. I mean, we say Kakashi, and I want to say Kakashi, because that's sort of, the director has to go, no, Kakashi. Okay. So it just depends on the show and what's going on. When I'm working on shows, what I like about anime is that it's Japanese, and I don't want it to be American. I don't want to turn samurais into cowboys. I want them to be samurai. I don't want to turn rice balls and onigiri into donuts, which is what we always did in Pokemon. I'm like, really? Donuts? I've never seen a donut that looked like that. So, because I'm more interested in the culture, and for those of you who know my presentations that I do on mythology, that's sort of interesting to me. But I do want to make the show as accessible to an English-speaking audience as possible. So, it becomes ridiculous sometimes. I was working on Rurouni Kenshin, and on Rurouni Kenshin, samurai fighting, and I had this sword attack. And my line in the show was literally, my Amakakuru Ryo no Hirameki is better than your Amakakuru Ryo no Hirameki. Now, while that might be very accurate Japanese, it's completely opaque to anyone who speaks English and doesn't know something about sort of Tokugawa shogunate Japan. They go, what? It doesn't allow you in. So I want the show to still feel Japanese. I want it to have the flavor of Japan, but I want it to remain accessible. And that's a hard line. It depends on the show, how far are you going to do. When you're doing a Chekhov play, do you have every character go by each one of their 3 Russian names, and their patronymics and everything else? Because an American audience or a Canadian audience, people would kind of go, what? But to a Russian audience, that's very important. So that's the challenge of always trying to localize something. But I always do my best to make sure that, we say Akira, not Akira, because that always to me it sounds disrespectful, but